The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee recommends the following. A. The abolition of PSDBM, the filing of criminal and administrative cases, the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, against the following officials: Alain del B. Pascua, Annalyn M. Sevilla, Salvador C. Malana III, Abram Y. C. Abanil, Lloyd Christopher A. Lau, Jason Mer L. Uayan, Ulysses E. Mora. One count for the violation of Section 3G, Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, against the following officials of the Department of Education: Alain del B. Pascua, Annalyn M. Sevilla, Salvador C. Malana III, Lloyd Christopher A. Lau, Jason Mer L. Uayan, Ulysses E. Mora. One count of falsification of public document by a public official, defined and penalized Annalyn M. Sevilla, Alec Ladanga. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee recommends the following. The abolition of PSDBM, and to require government departments, agencies, office instrumentalities, including GOCCs, SUCs, and local governments, to conduct their own procurement as an exercise of their fiduciary duty to be accountable for public funds appropriated for their respective offices. Under the 2021 DepEd Laptop for Teachers procurement project was overpriced by at least 979 million pesos. The filing of criminal and administrative cases against the officials of DepEd and PSDBM to include the following. One count of violation of Section 3E of Republic Act Number 3019, otherwise known as the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, against the following officials of the Department of Education. 1. Former Undersecretary Alain del B. Pascua. 2. Undersecretary Annalyn M. Sevilla. 3. Former Assistant Secretary Salvador C. Malana III. 4. Director Abram Y. C. Abanil. The following officials of the Procurement Service and the Department of Budget and Management. 1. Former OIC Executive Director Lloyd Christopher A. Lau. 2. Former OIC Executive Director Jason Mer L. Uayan. 3. BAC Chairman Ulysses E. Mora, as well as the other members of SBAC 1 and SBAC TWG and Secretariat, whether from DepEd or from PSDBM. Number 4, Engineer Marwan O. Amil. And principals, representatives, and agents of the joint venture consortium partners or other private parties who may have concluded and or conspired as supported by competent evidence with the above-mentioned officials. One count for the violation of Section 3G of Republic Act 3019, otherwise known as the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, against the following officials of the Department of Education. 1. Former Undersecretary Alain del B. Pascua. 2. Undersecretary Annalyn M. Sevilla. 3. Former Assistant Secretary Salvador C. Malana III. The following officials also of the Procurement Service and the Department of Budget and Management. Former OIC Executive Director Lloyd Christopher A. Lau. Former OIC Executive Director Jason Mer L. Uayan. BAC Chairman Ulysses E. Mora, as well as the other members of SBAC 1 and SBAC TWG and Secretariat, whether from DepEd or PSDBM, as well as principals, representatives, and or agents of the joint venture consortium partners or other private parties who may have colluded and or conspired as supported by competent evidence with the aforementioned officials. One count of falsification of public document by a public official defined and penalized under Article 171 of the Revised Penal Code against the following officials of the Department of Education. Number 1, Undersecretary Annalyn M. Sevilla. Number 2, former Executive Assistant Alec Ladanga. Next, one count for violation of Section 3A of Republic Act 3019, otherwise known as the Anti-Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, against the following officials of the Department of Education. 1, Undersecretary Annalyn M. Sevilla, and 2, former Executive Assistant Alex Ladanga. Next, multiple counts of perjury defined and penalized under Article 1A3 of the Revised Penal Code as amended by Republic Act number 11594 against the following officials of the Department of Education. Undersecretary Annalyn M. Sevilla, former Undersecretary Elaine Del B. Pascua, former Assistant Secretary Salvador Malana III, former OIC Executive Director Lloyd Christopher A. Lau, and former OIC Executive Director Jason Mer Uayan of the PSDBM. In addition, the following actions are recommended. Number 1, the administrative and disciplinary investigations for multiple counts of grave misconduct, serious dishonesty, gross neglect of duty, and conduct prejudicial to the best interest of the service be likewise initiated against the aforementioned senior officials of the Department of Education and the Procurement Service of the Department of Budget and Management as may be applicable. That the Commission on Audit issue notices of disallowance for the overprice in the purchase of the laptops in the total amount of at least 979 million pesos against the following officials of the Department of Education. Undersecretary Annalyn M. Sevilla, former Undersecretary Elaine Del B. Pascua, former Assistant Secretary Salvador C. Malana III. Number 3, on the basis of Presidential Decree number 1445, otherwise known as the Government Auditing Code of the Philippines, that civil complaints be initiated against the following officials and personnel of the Department of Education, as well as against officials of the Procurement Service of the Department of Budget and Management to collect and recover the value of the overprice in the amount of at least 979 million pesos, including accrued interest and damages, and that they be held jointly and solidarily liable therefor. Number 1, Undersecretary Annalyn M. Sevilla, former Undersecretary Elaine Del B. Pascua, former Assistant Secretary Salvador C. Malana III, former OIC Executive Director Lloyd Christopher A. Lau, former OIC Executive Director Jason Mer L. Uayan, and other DepEd and PSDBM officials that may be shown by competent evidence to be responsible for government funds or uses of government property in violation of law and relevant regulations. Finally, let a copy of this committee report be furnished the Department of Education, the Department of Justice, the Office of the Ombudsman, the Commission on Audit, the Anti-Money Laundering Council, the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the Office of the Solicitor General, and the Bureau of Immigration for their information and appropriate action, including but not limited to the conduct of preliminary investigation and administrative adjudication, a special fraud audit, a tax compliance review of a tax fraud audit, legal action to recover proceeds of corruption, and an investigation of possible money laundering activities of public officials identified in this investigation if the law and evidence so warrants, as well as the issuance of the proper Immigration Lookout Bulletin Orders or ILBO against those concerned when necessary and as provided by law and existing regulations.
Okay na tayo.
Sir, sorry,
yes.
sir. Meron
You are
po ba
from
kayong CNN Philippines po,
CNN.
sir? Yes, sir. Meron po ba tayong information on the whereabouts of former Yusek Lau? Kasi po, di ba, nung last na mga pagdinig, gusto po niyang mawala na yung pagkakalagay niya dun sa watch list?
I think he's still here in the Philippines. Hindi naman siya ata umaalis. Yun ang pagkakaalam ko. Sa kadahilanan, nakikita niyo naman ng mga huling hearings, siya ata ay uma-attend. Di ba ho? So, na-deny yung request niya noon, pero naniniwala ako nandito pa siya sa Pilipinas.
Sir, procedural lang. So yung copy nito bibigyan din yung mga accused, and then kailangan ba natin na ilagay sila sa HDO this early o hindi naman po?
Pag naaprobahan na ho ng plenary.
Sir, yung recommendation is more on the filing of charges. Wala po bang recommendation to at least suspend sila if they are still in the position?
Kasama po yun. Ang ilan na lang po kasi dito ang nasa opisina pa eh. Siguro ho, yung mga members ng BAC at isa o dalawang miyembro ng DepEd. So I think once this is furnished to the appropriate department head or agency head, administratively, the head would be acting pursuant to existing civil service regulations.
Sir, on my part, bali anong lessons learned na pwede nating makita ng mga government officials and employees dito sa investigation that the Blue Ribbon conducted?
Mahirap yung tanong mo. Kasi nung nangyari ito, hindi normal circumstances eh. Naka-lockdown tayo. Di ba? Nung nangyari po ito, halos nasa bahay lahat. Siguro ang lessons learned dito ay dapat siguro mangibabaw pa rin yung pagpupursige ng tamang direksyon. Ang mga bata po ay nasa bahay, ang mga maestra at guro ay walang connectivity. Bakit nangyari ito? So dapat po siguro inuna muna yung interest ng mga mag-aaral. Bumaba po yung reading and writing abilities natin ng mga bata. May mga pag-aaral na ganon nung sa lockdown. So nakakalungkot. Ganon din yung mga guro. Lessons learned, marami. Iisa-isahin natin, hindi pa tapos yung istorya. Hindi pa siguro matatapos yung kung ano yung leksyon na natutunan. May mga leksyon pa dapat na matutunan. Wala na?
Na po siya sa plenary?
Dapat, pero baka hindi pa siguro ito Monday kasi kabubukas lang eh. Hindi pa, baka marami pang nauna sa akin sa Lunes.
Safe to say next.
Yes. I'm ready.
Sir,
I'm ready.
Sir, sorry. Safe to say na within the month, maa-adapt yung committee report given na meron kayong required signatures?
Depende po sa load ng plenary. Ang mga mahalagang bagay na nakikita ko ay yung pag-aamyenda sa Republic Act 11709, yung tungkol sa retirement promotion ng mga miyembro ng Sandatahang Lakas ng Pilipinas. Pangalawa, yung usapin natin tungkol sa agrikultura, lalong-lalo na sa sibuyas. Pangatlo, ay siguro yung mga usapin pa rin sa West Philippine Sea. So maraming kaagaw ito, kakompetensya sa agenda.
Sir, last na po for me, sorry. Pa-clarify lang, sir, paano ba yung process usually dun sa recovery? For example, yung 979 million, yun pong mga nabanggit na tao, sila yung dapat magbalik ng pera na yun, tama po ba?
Correct. So,
So-
trabaho ng Sandigang Bayan yan, how to do that. Yung forfeiture, how to garnish, how to check the bank account, sa kanila na yan. And nakalagay naman doon, solidarily liable. Ibig sabihin, yung liability ng isa, mag-ambag-ambag sila para maabot yun.
Paano division ng pagbabayad, sir?
Nasa husgado na yun. Nasa husgado
So,
na yan.
Sandigan Bayan order ang kailangan?
Sandigan. Kailangan ng due process naman yun, maghihiring yun. Hindi naman yun i-adapt kagad ng sandigan, maghihiring pa yan.
So, ibig sabihin, sir, mangyayari yung recovery na yan once na may na-file ng cases and then
Yes.
mag-hear and then...
You are correct.
Sir, what's next for Blue Ribbon? Ano yung next?
Tatapusin natin tong nakapending yung 44 million box dose na nasayang. Kung natatandaan nyo yun, nag-hearing na tayo doon. Ang next step doon is to have an executive committee hearing. Lalong-lalo na ngayon, nagkaroon ng pagbabago. The vaccine czar is now the Secretary of National Defense. Baka iba na yung mag-proxy sa kanya doon dahil sa daming gawain ng Secretary of National Defense. I'm talking about Charlie Galvez. So, tingnan natin. Yun na yung kasunod. Tapusin yung vaccine. Thank you. Magandang hapon. Maayong hapon. Dagang salamat.